Yeah, there's like 100 questions that, still need to be answered with it, right? Something that I have found to be pretty interesting is there's a few states in America that are spinning up like, the Texas Cyber Command, right? There's a couple other states that are doing it too, where they're basically just, enlisting cybersecurity experts into the reserves and then putting them on Cyber Command to help in the event that a massive cyber attack actually happens, which I actually think is a really good idea. That's probably the only way that you can do it at this point because you have to think about it, right? What's the age range for someone entering, the National Guard or military just overall, right? It's you're young, early 20s, right? Like when I was in my early 20s, I was trying to enlist as well, right? You're not going to get people that are in their 40s enlisting or 30s, because you have families by then. But by that time, if you're not in, your life is completely different from how it would be if you were in. And there's a lot of things that you would have to give up, to be able to make that work, right? Like it just doesn't work any other way. And so something like the Texas Cyber Command or, Illinois, if they ever get one or whatever it might be, would be the best way to kind of get that talent that never enlisted, that went the professional route, that are experts in cybersecurity. You enlist them, put them through a short boot camp, give me a nice sign on bonus, right? Let me, call off from work. I'll be happy to do it. Like that would be awesome. But I feel like that's almost like the only way to kind of manage it in America, at least, because America is so broad, it's so big. The government is literally not big enough to cover, the entire country in terms of cyber infrastructure and cybersecurity. It's just not because it can barely cover, like the main utilities of the power grid and the water and everything else, right? So there's a lot to it. And I wonder, is there anything like that spinning up in Europe right now where countries are getting their own kind of version of a cyber command or something like that? I apologize. I just, everyone over here in America, very America focused, not thinking of anything in Europe like, oh yeah, it's our cousins over there.
No, I mean, yeah, I obviously, keep a very close eye on what's going on over the Atlantic, but I would say my bias too is probably skewed European, so you are forgiven. So there are some efforts. So there's slightly different, but the European Union is saying something called the Cyber Reserve, and what that essentially is a pool of trusted, accredited incident response providers that, in a kind of Ukraine level type situation, they can immediately call upon those providers in order to provide the kind of instant response capacity that you need in that level of crisis. And I think part of that comes back to some of the lessons learned with the war in Ukraine, where there was a need to access that sort of capability quite quickly, but kind of procurement processes were slow and they kind of didn't get stood up as quickly as it necessarily could have. So you see efforts like that.